Good afternoon. This is Mario Casabona. I'm the founder and of TechLaunch, and I wanted to welcome everyone to Bullpen 22. Thank you for participating. I do want to introduce the co-host, which is Robin Baer. She's a strategic advisor for startups and middle market companies, also an advisor and a senior mentor at TechLaunch. And the person behind the scene that's making the webinar happen is Eric Korb. He's a successful entrepreneur as well as an advisor and senior mentor at TechLaunch. So next slide, please, Eric. Thank you. So just a brief introduction. TechLaunch's mission is really to commercialize emerging technology by finding and nurturing early stage tech ventures to accelerate growth via mentoring, coaching, networking, and access to resources and capital. And how do we actually do that? Three ways. First one, next slide, please. So the first one is what I refer to as the Business Accelerator. And that was originally created in 2012 in collaboration with the New Jersey EDA and regional angel investors, including myself. At that time, we launched 26 new ventures and featured over 150 mentors in our network. In 2017, I pivoted to a new Business Accelerator model, which provides mentoring and quarterly pitch events. Since then, we have mentored over about 125 seed stage ventures in over 21, and we've had over, including this one, 22 pitch events. The other is startup bootcamp weekends, which we really have not had any because of the COVID, but that was basically for entrepreneurs that just wanted to get a feel for what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And then the third is the TechLaunch Office Hours program, which we initiated during the pandemic so that we can keep the entrepreneurs and our mentors and the ecosystem connected. And what we do there is on a weekly basis at 10:30 on Monday morning, we send out featured 6 or 7 featured mentors that are available for office hours. That's worked out very well, and in some cases, we actually get applicants, or we have gotten applicants to this program through that office hours. Next slide, please. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the members for this event. What I'll do is I'll call your name out and then give our audience a brief introduction of yourselves. So Judith, if you don't mind.
Sure. Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to be able to participate in this virtual version of the bullpen. I've always loved it when it was in person. I'm currently the executive director of the Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology, and we focus on early stage companies. We have a number of grant programs available to companies. So it's a grant, it's not a loan, it's not an investment. A couple of the programs that I certainly would encourage people to reach out to me about is we have a program for companies who have received SBIR or STTR funding from the federal government. You can apply for either a $25,000 grant or a $50,000 grant, depending on where you are at with your phase 1 and or phase 2 applications. Again, I encourage you to reach out to me. And we also have a clean tech seed grant to enable companies to make use of some of the specialized equipment at New Jersey universities if you're working in the clean tech, clean energy space.
Great, thank you, Judith. Sandy?
Thank you, Mario. Sandy Wollman, I'm the co-founder, managing director, and chief bottle washer for the Westchester Angels. We're the relatively new guys on the block. We've been around about 6 years, I also lead an initiative called the New York Area Angel Alliance that brings together all of the angel groups in the tri-state area to share deal flow. It's a really fun space. It's a collaborative space. It's not a competitive space. And I really enjoy what I'm doing. It's kind of funny when you're old, when you're young, you want to hang out with old folks, or when you're old, you want to hang out with young folks. And this opportunity gives me an opportunity. This initiative gives me an opportunity to stay young. Thank you, Mario.
Thank you, Sandy. Kiyana?
Well, I am young. At least I like to think so. I'm Kiyana Glass-Miller, and I guess my intro will prove that first statement wrong. I have over 22 years as an IT professional, and I am an angel investor with the Black and Latinx Angel Fund. Thank you.
Thank you. And Seth, you're young too, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm trying to be. Thank you, Mario. Good afternoon, everyone. Much of my career has been focused on commercializing technology and being involved as an entrepreneur in a number of different startups and also in some large companies. I'm currently heading innovation at one of HP's incubation centers focused on disruptive opportunities in a 3D printing space. So real pleased to be here and very excited to hear some of these wonderful companies.
Great, Seth, thank you. And panelists, again, I want to mention that really appreciate taking the time to participate. Eric, next slide, please. Great. Our event partners, we really appreciate the opportunity of having them. First one, mentioned Jumpstart New Jersey Angel Network. They're the premier angel group in the Mid-Atlantic region with over 35 members. And typically they invest anywhere between $100,000 and about $1 million total. Then Tech Council Ventures with well over $50 million under management. They invest in early stage technology companies in the Mid-Atlantic region. Then Casabona Ventures with over 30 tech companies in its portfolio. They invest in seed stage tech ventures. Initial and follow-on investments range between $25,000 and $100,000. Focus is mid-tech, digital health, materials, and more broadly IoT. Then in Casabona Ventures, in-kind services, Gibbons Law is a nationally recognized leader in corporate law that regularly advises early stage businesses. They have over 200 attorneys. Gibbons is a leading law firm in the East Coast and ranked among the nation's top 200 by the American Lawyer. Withum Smith & Brown is an accounting firm, the 26th largest tax and consulting firm in the country, and has had a group focused on startups and emerging growth sector for over 20 years. Gerhardt Law is a full service intellectual property law firm, supportive of early stage ventures, specializing in patents, trademarks, trade secrets, and copyrights. And Casabona Ventures, Gibbons Law, Withum, and Gerhardt Law provide a total of about $15,000 of advisory service. And then whoever the winner is gets to present to Jumpstart New Jersey Angel Network and also Tech Council Ventures. Next slide, please. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Robin. And I'm fortunate to do the introductions, and then I'll say all the thank yous at the end. But at this point, turn it over to Robin, and it's all yours.
Great, thanks, Mario. So first of all, welcome to everyone for today. We're really excited that you are able to join us for another exciting round of pitch competitions. So this is the 22nd version of the Bull Pen pitch competition. So thank you for joining us today. For those of you who've been here, you know how this been here before, this, you know how this goes, but for anyone who's new, who's first joining us, this is the lay of the land and how we run our competition. Each presenter will have 7 minutes to make their pitch. This will be followed by 7 minutes of audience Q&A. So audience members, you absolutely have a role to play in this event. We really do want to hear from you. So please put your questions into the Q&A. It's at the bottom of your screen. Try to be as clear as possible in your questions, but if you are a little vague, that's okay too. I'll just paraphrase it and try to get the gist of your question. And I will pick up those questions and moderate those to the presenter. After our Q&A, we will have 7 minutes of feedback from the panel. Panelists, judges, just a reminder that feedback is in the form of comments. You're not allowed to ask questions. You're going to be relying on the audience members to ask those questions. And then after each session, after we go through all of the comments, the questions and the feedback, the panelists will vote on the most fundable. And this is a series of 5 metrics that we have determined over the course of a few years that these really help us determine the success of each company. So these 5 characteristics are team. Does this team have the right talent, the depth and level of expertise to be able to execute on this idea? Do they have a successful, minimally viable product? Have they demonstrated traction in the market, or have they, do they have certain signals that would indicate a strong product? Market size and need. The judges are going to be looking carefully at how well those revenue projections link to viable market projections or a market basis for build-up. Capital raise and use of funds. The judges are going to be looking to see, has there been any initial funding already, even if it's limited, and what does the founder look to do with the money that's raised? What's the use of proceeds? And then finally, overall presentation quality. Next slide, please. So with that, what we are going to do is start with our first presenter today. First up is Stereotheque, which is a collaboration tool for creatives that connects businesses with on-demand, remote, and creative teams at a fraction of the cost and time. Their platform includes everything you need to manage multiple projects and deliverables, collaborators, and seamless payments. Stereotheque is mentored by Ratan Agarwal and is presented today by Tomas Uribe, co-founder and CEO. Tomas?
Yes, thank you very much for the introduction. So let me begin. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tomas. I am the co-founder and CEO at Stereotheque, the marketplace and collaboration tool for creative teams. Next slide, please. So where do you go when you need to hire on-demand creative teams? When anywhere from 2 to 5 people need to collaborate effectively to get the job done. Next slide. Where do you find them? How do you vet them? Is there any way to make sure they will actually work well together? Because the fact is that for busy entrepreneurs and creators with creative ideas and short timelines and actually not much room for error, next slide, the answers to these questions will be the difference between success and failure. Next slide. In fact, small and medium-sized businesses today spend over $2,000 and over 4 months just in the process of finding a candidate, not even getting the work done, which amounts to over $12 billion lost. Next slide. We know that collaboration is hard, but it does not have to be. My name is Tomas. I am the co-founder and CEO at Stereotheque, the marketplace and collaboration tool where anyone can find and hire on-demand creative teams. Next slide. You start by publishing a project and select up to 5 roles you want to fill. So things like, for example, a copywriter, creative director, and a music supervisor, all rolled into one package. Next slide. You can view each of the candidates' profile to see how well they have performed in other projects with other collaborators and team members with a specific credentialing system that we built. You can see their skills, the services that they offer, and other information we've added onto profiles. Next slide. You can also define due dates, deliverables, and the budget for each one of the team members cross-border to build your dream team directly from the Stereotheque dashboard, which has been completely optimized for creative work. We put in real-time notifications for each of the project team members and progress for each of the deliverables without losing track of the overall picture, getting your project done. Next slide. Also, pay and receive payments on time and remotely. It's a hassle for businesses to have to take care of cross-border payments. If there's one individual in Mexico, in Colombia, in Spain, in the UK, we take care of everything. Cross-border transactions, tax compliance, absolutely everything. Next slide. The global digital workplace market is valued today at about $25 billion today. And what sets us apart from other labor marketplaces and collaboration tools is the fact that we make it very easy to build remote creative teams. So we can assemble these individuals through their creative abilities from around the world who will actually work well together. Next slide. Under the hood, Stereotheque is your all-in-one dream team tool. Imagine a system that knows exactly who to place together and plug in your entire employee or candidate database, or having a fixed budget or getting customized recommendations. What we've built is a drag and drop tool, so you can actually drag and drop team members, and Stereotheque will show you what we call the Team Success Index. It's a probability of success score that will actually help you identify how well those team members will perform. So no more guessing, a total game changer for building teams. Next slide. Stereotheque receives 20% for each one of the projects that is executed on the platform. And from premium users, we charge a $20 per month fee, which gives additional benefits like first access to gigs, a pro badge on their profile, and waive fees for cross-border payouts. Enterprise customers pay a $20,000 setup fee and $500 a month to license Stereotheque. Next slide. Now, the average value for each gig that is executed on Stereotheque is between $625 and $685, where the ratio between the lifetime value and the acquisition cost is almost 4. So an average project, which entails about 3 to 5 people, will be between $2,500 and $3,000 in just one project. Next slide. The future of work, as we all know, in the past 18 months is happening now. And since January of last year, we've seen 100% growth in just this year with projects that we've executed in several cities across the US and abroad, generating around $250,000 in total revenue. We're actually on pace to double that in the next 9 months. Next slide. Our clients include multinational companies like TikTok, CD Baby, all the way to startups that have been recognized by Forbes from New York and all over the States, universities, and other organizations. And the way that we've acquired our customers thus far has been through inbound content marketing, with our weekly articles, over 20,000 social media followers that we've built, and our creator podcast, which is already in its 3rd season. We have partnerships as well in place with larger content companies looking to help their customers fund and build creative teams. The first one is 1RPM in Latin America. Next slide, please. The growth and interest in the space is getting bigger as well, where companies like Workfront, for instance, just got acquired by Adobe in $1.5 billion. Anchor was acquired by Spotify, Reverb by Etsy, and Patreon on the right, which I'm sure that you've heard of. They're valued today in $4 billion. So the creator economy is now growing and will not stop in the growth. Next slide. Now, we know about creative teams because we have been a remote creative team ever since we started, even before the pandemic. We're a growing team of 7, and I have over 12 years of experience working in the media, entertainment, and technology industries, including United Nations, Huckleberry Corp, a startup in Brooklyn, Wild Style Network, and with brands like Qualcomm, Leica Camera, and Microsoft, among others. My co-founder and CTO, Christian Diaz, he's former CTO at another ad tech startup in Miami, and he led the AI team at Royal Caribbean. Maria, she leads product and communications, and Juan, with former stints at Universal Music, he was our VP of sales and marketing. Next slide. Today, we are raising $1.5 million, and investors like Pharrell Williams through his Black Ambition Fund, which invests in Black and Latinx founders, are already part of this round. Our next steps for Stereotheque are to scale our business and increase our sales this year to accelerate our product feature deployments, continue investing in our own team and the product itself. Next slide. We know that collaboration is hard, but we just make it look easy with Stereotheque. Next slide. Creative teams for all. So if you're interested in joining us, let's talk. Thank you.
Great, Tomas. Thank you very much. You had 20 seconds left, so good job on practicing. So at this point, we're going to turn to audience questions. So if you have a question for Tomas about Stereotheque, please put it in the Q&A and I will pick it up and field them from there. So a couple of questions to start us off with. How much is your actual received revenue year to date?
Revenue in 2021, it's been $85,000.
Okay, and I had a question while we were listening.
Mhm.
Can you give the audience a little bit more of an idea of the types of creative content that is that you're pulling teams together for? You know, you mentioned ad tech, you mentioned pulling together music producers and creative directors, but could you just give some examples of the kinds of content that these creative teams are creating?
Great question. The majority of the projects that have been built by our creative teams entail within the audiovisual kind of like vertical and design vertical as well. So anything that has to do, for instance, product photography, video interviews, and audio like podcasting, for instance, that's all some of the projects that we've done. We've done very big projects as well, things like a reality TV show, all the way to graphic design for multiple nonprofits in the States. So it encompasses different team members as well and different skills.
Okay, great. I think that's helpful for people to understand what kinds of content is really coming out.
Yep.
And does your platform allow you talk about makes it easier to collaborate? So are they able, if they're producing video content, are they able to actually work on that content together through your platform, or how does that?
So the collaboration itself is more of a project management tool amongst the different creators that are, again, globally, the majority of them are remote creators. So we take care of more deliverables, the cross-border payments, and the project management itself. Other integrations, for example, integrating, let's say, Illustrator or Photoshop files, all of that is being built on right now based on the feedback that we've gotten from users. But since it's very, the different creators have different processes for working together, it's very hard to encompass everything. So we're just taking care and focusing on how this team can be executing as effective as possible.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. That's helpful. And well, you mentioned that your team is remote. Or do you have a home base, or do you have?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we are headquartered in New York, but we have right now actually we're expanding to St. Louis. There's a very big community as well there in St. Louis, Missouri, and also in Miami. And the majority of our users are both in the States, Mexico, and Colombia.
Okay, great. What do you think is, or what do you see as your competition? Is there something that's in existence that you are replacing, or are there substitutes for this? And if you could talk about what competitive barriers might be there to prevent a future competitor from encroaching on your space.
Definitely. I believe that we are piggybacking off of what other incumbents in labor marketplaces have built. So we know that the bigger competitors, let's say on the end, like Upwork, Fiverr, they've existed for about 10, 15 years. But what they've approached has been mainly getting as cheap as possible labor from wherever they are in the world. So not necessarily focusing on building teams that are robust enough for clients that entail a little bit more sophistication for the project, but just getting very quick skill sets done. That's why, for example, in our case, Fiverr's average ticket size is about $237. Ours is between $685 and $700. So that's where you start considering the different verticals as to where we're positioned and the difference that we have with other competitors. I think the main aspect of this is how we're acknowledging the fact that a lot of the creators in this space today, there's been a growth in about 2.5 like people that consider themselves creatives, that are working from their homes, in their computers, and need digital work tools in order to continue pushing forward in their career. But the main fact of this is that they want to work in something that they love, that makes them passionate about. And that's what we're trying to really focus on with Stereotheque.
Okay, great. We have some questions about your financials. So if we could take a few minutes to go to discuss that. have you received any investment so far? You kind of alluded to some of that. What
Yep.
does your cap table look like so far? What kinds of investors, to what degree? How much of that $1.5 million round is either soft circled or already filled out?
Great question. So yes, we have received investment. The majority of them has come from a few angel investors, a couple of VC firms. One of them is Startup Ventures in New York. The other one is Capital Innovators in Missouri as well. And recently, through Pharrell Williams Black Ambition Fund, they invested in us. Based on this and the fact that we're part of the Mass Challenge Boston program, we're trying to finish the round by the end of this year. And we have allocated thus far 300,000 that has been committed already, about 500,000 soft circled with VCs that we are right now in conversations with in due diligence.
Okay, great. And what is the anticipated valuation that you've?
Good question. Yeah, it would be a 6 million post money.
Okay.
Valuation. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, we have another question. The uniqueness of Stereotheque seems to be that it draws together freelancers in the music, design, and entertainment industry. What is their incentive to use your platform instead of others?
Great question. We actually had a very nice example of a freelancer that was part of Behance, but the client that was working with her ended up not working through Behance, and she actually switched to Stereotheque because we can take care of cross-border compliance and tax compliance for both the company and the creator, even without regarding that they're overseas or not. That's a very big challenge that we actually taken on our shoulders to fix. And the second thing, I believe it's a mix of components. One of them is definitely our team has been very knowledgeable in the creator space. Again, you're not able to build a TV commercial through Upwork or Fiverr. That's simply not doable, and nobody has created that. Yes, you can hire one-on-one individuals, but you still have to manage them in multiple platforms. What we try to do is make it as seamless as possible, manage them all together. And that has to do with also the technology, how we can make as easy as possible the matching score that we've built based on the recommendations of the clients and requirements.
Okay, great. Thank you. If you can hear that, that means time is up.
Thank you for the questions.
So much for answering all those questions. Thank you to the audience for contributing them. As you probably can tell, you have to type quickly. So if you have a question, get it in there as soon as possible so that I can see it and pick it up from there. So now we are going to our panelists, our panel of esteemed judges to get their feedback on Stereotheque. And first up, we have Judith. Your comments for Tomas.
Great. Thank you, Robin. Tomas, very interesting presentation and product concept. I have a couple of comments for you relative to some other information that I think you could add to the presentation that would be helpful. You had been asked to give in the Q&A a discussion of what were an example of some of the kinds of projects that you have been done on the platform. I would encourage you to have a slide that gives some examples of the type of projects that you've done, to the extent that a company can be listed as you've done this project for this company, that would be great, or the type of company that you worked with. Additionally, you gave some great information during the Q&A discussion about how your platform compared to some of the other company competitors in the marketplace. And I think having a slide that maybe has a table and lists the names of the top few competitors, and then going the other direction, some of the features, and where you've got all of those features together and they don't have those particular capabilities, whether it was the cross-border payments capability or the ability to really help the client put together the best team to address their problems. And then, as I said, it was a very very interesting presentation. I've certainly been in the situation where I could have used this type of service to help us with some of the things that we were trying to do. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Judith. Appreciate the comments. And yeah, totally right. Thank you.
sorry, next up we have Sandy, your comments for Tomas.
Thank you, Robin. Tomas, I think our paths have crossed in the past. I think we screened you a couple of years ago, and I'm glad to see your progress. Good to see you again.
Excellent. Thank you, Sandy.
A couple of things, 7 minutes is not a lot of time. You got to get a lot of information into your slide deck and your pitch so you could simply continue the conversation. This is nothing new. A couple of things. You have some clients. Congratulations. I'd like to hear comments from them, because everybody thinks their platform or startup is the best thing since sliced bread. We want to hear some of your maybe even a short video clip of a client that thinks your platform is the best thing. Number one. Number two, you mentioned the raise. You didn't mention the terms of the raise. Is it an equity position, a convertible note? That could have easily been included in the slide for $1.5 million raise. And it was mentioned before, in that raise, if you've already raised some money, maybe list some of the people, some of the angel groups or individuals that you've raised that money from. That would certainly raise interest of other investors, knowing that there's some investors that we might know that are on there. No exit strategy. That's really important, and it's kind of crazy, right? You just start your business and you have to tell us angels how you're going to sell it. But it's a requirement. Ideally, we'd like to see multiples in the space that you're in, so far as revenue and exit. Sometimes that's difficult because they're private deals, but with a little digging, you could find that out. And one thing you really need to highlight is you're in a virtual matchmaking business. There's no intellectual property. There's no barrier to entry. And these are things you've heard before. I'd really like to know what really makes you different than everybody else out there. What's the secret sauce? I know you're concentrating on certain markets, but the last thing is angel investors don't like to see year one, year two projections. We like to see calendar years. But Tomas, hey, congratulations on your progress since we last touched base. I wish you continued best of luck.
Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate it. And yes, some of the things that you mentioned, I might have gone through them relatively quickly, and like the logos of the investors, there's some elements there, but I agree that they should be a little bit more evident throughout the pitch. So thank you for the feedback.
Come on.
Great. Thanks, Sandy, for the comments. Next up, we have Kiyana, your comments for Tomas.
Hello, Tomas. Great presentation. I thought it was very creative. I love the slides. What stood out to me most, I think, were the tax compliance piece and the team success index. I know that the time was very limited, but I would love to hear more about how you're doing the matching score. I think that's a big piece of who you are and how you set yourself apart from some of your competitors.
Correct.
And some of my other comments have already been addressed, so I won't take up the time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kiyana. And yes, that's definitely one of the portions that sets us apart. And we've already tested with multiple teams. So yeah, I'd love to talk about that as well in more detail.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kiyana. And finally, we'd like to hear from Seth, your comments for Tomas.
Sure. Great presentation, Tomas, and really cool product. And a little bit similar to what Kiyana and Sandy both mentioned about value proposition and differentiator. I see it much more than the ability just to serve up a kind of a creative talent, but it is about the ability to create teams and offer them, right? So two things. One is I want to know more in the presentation. I'm very curious, and I think you probably want to then convey this as part of your messaging, is how you go about to create those teams, right? Because that is a very big differentiator from others out there. And whether it's, you've got some proprietary algorithms, and whether you're using psychographics, right, to bring together the right types of people that could meld well, work well with others. I think that's a really important part of what you're doing. So just like to learn a little bit more about that. And I think you're doing a great job with that.
Absolutely. Yes, and I agree, Seth. Yeah, I looked about that more in detail as well.
Okay, great. Tomas, thank you so much. Judges, thank you for your comments. Now it's the time for you to fill out your scorecard and your quantitative evaluation of Stereotheque. And just let me know when you are done with that so that we can move on. For the audience, just wanted to let you know, as Mario had said in the beginning, TechLaunch runs office hours every week. There's a rotating block of mentors who make themselves available to meet with you, discuss what you're working on, give some free advice and counsel. So check your email. If you are not on that email list, make sure that you sign up for it or look for it posted on LinkedIn. But these are some of the mentors who do volunteer their time in various capacities, whether it's weekly, whether it's through our pitch events or in other general support of the organization. So these are the folks who help make this happen. And we really do appreciate their time that they give to helping make TechLaunch a success. Okay, next up, we are going to hear from Ironbound Media. Ironbound Media is a podcast production studio and independent network that helps veteran-owned businesses engage their perfect customer through dog whistle branding. They accomplish this by helping veteran-owned businesses create, distribute, and grow branded podcast series. Ironbound Media was mentored by Peter Kestenbaum and is presented today by Mike Steadman, founder and CEO. Mike?
Thank you. Can everybody see me? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Iron Mike Steadman. This is a name that was given to me for my background as a 3-time national boxing champion and Marine Corps infantry officer. But for the sake of today, I'm the founder and CEO of Ironbound Media. Next slide, please. I want you to think about the current demographic in America, in particular, 2 key points. Number one, there are a lot of jobs being created right now, but unfortunately, being ex-military is not exactly ideal for a lot of them, particularly in the tech industry. In addition, also thanks to technology, although there's an abundance of opportunity available for entrepreneurs, this always hasn't translated well to the veteran entrepreneurial community. There's only 2.5 million veteran-owned small businesses, and many of them struggle to convey their values and their messaging online in an increasingly noisy online world, which makes it difficult to stand out from the crowd. Next slide, please. With that as a backdrop for today, I'm going to talk to you about what we do at Ironbound, where we are now, and where we're going. Next slide, please. You see, veterans don't need marketing and branding. What they need to learn is dog whistle branding and how to treat their brand like a dog whistle that allows them to engage with their perfect customer. You see, as veterans, we're taught to think differently, and that doesn't always necessarily translate to business. Many of us have been shot at, blown up, and unfortunately, some of us have paid the ultimate sacrifice. However, we still have value to bring to the business community. Next slide, please. That's why at Ironbound, we specialize in helping veteran-owned businesses create, distribute, and grow branded podcasts, what we refer to as dog whistles. You see, the difference between a dog whistle and a regular podcast is it doesn't matter how many downloads you have, whether that's 10,000 or 20. What matters is, do you know who your perfect customer is? And are you able to keep up with the supply and demand that you'll generate for your products or services by engaging with them? And at Ironbound, we offer 3 different packages, bronze, silver, and platinum, ranging anywhere between $10,000 and $25,000 for a branded podcast. Next slide, please. In our first year in business, we've already validated the business model. We're generating approximately $7,500 a month in recurring revenue, and we're currently on track to hit $130,000 this year if we don't take on any more clients. We've already obtained the largest and most nationally recognized veteran service organization in the country, Bunker Labs, with 20,000 veteran-owned businesses, which they support. We've also built our client portfolio of 8 clients, ranging between 10 to 15K per client thus far. Next slide, please. We're seeking a $250,000 investment. What this will allow us to do is to leverage our already highly recognized brand within the veteran community. This will also allow us to refine our revenue model and go-to-market strategy in order to increase our monthly recurring revenue. We also want to invest heavily in a content production machine to educate the veteran community on the ins and outs of building a dog whistle brand. So we'd like to hire business development, content production, writers, producers, and hosts to really introduce this concept. Our typical client currently ranges anywhere between $5,000 to $15,000 a month, but with a full dog whistle branding support, we're hoping to get that monthly recurring revenue up to $20,000 per client. With this $250,000 investment and our infrastructure support, we're expected to be able to generate $600,000 in revenue next year and $1.5 million in year 3. Next slide, please. You see, at Ironbound, we believe the future of publishing is audio, and we're positioned to pave the way for the veteran community. Peter Drucker wrote 39 books. In 2022, that probably looked like 39 podcasts. Next slide, please. The veteran-owned business community is about 2.5 million veteran-owned businesses. And to be honest, our perfect customer is a 30 to 40-year-old Service Academy graduate that's running a growth stage veteran-owned business that needs help with its marketing and branding. Our go-to-market strategy is really tied around focusing locally in the state of New Jersey and then expanding upwards. And the other thing right now too is there's a hunger for educating veterans on the ins and outs of entrepreneurship. We've got veteran entrepreneur programs popping up, incubators and accelerators. And before this pitch competition, I was on with the major VC who stressed the challenges of hiring veterans and funding veteran entrepreneurs. So again, veterans think differently and respond differently. Next slide, please. Now, there's been major podcasting acquisitions over the last year, including Gimlet, Ringer, and Parcast. Now, the interesting thing about all of these acquisitions, though, is what they've been focusing on is gaining access to the audience that these podcast production companies are bringing. What is the value placed on access to 2.5 million veteran small businesses? Now, obviously, we don't own the entire market yet, but there still is value in creating a podcast platform that has access to such a niche audience. Again, that's where the real power of podcasting comes through. Next slide, please. Now, full transparency. I understand podcasting might not be as sexy as cloud computing and a lot of other the TechLaunch winners that you've seen, but I will tell you there's value in niche audiences. And the other thing, all the numbers that you see out here on this slide, we've generated upwards of $130,000 in our first year in business, bootstrapped with nothing but a laptop and a microphone. I started the company in my 1-bedroom apartment in downtown Newark, and have since expanded it to include myself and a few contractors. Our hope is that with investment of $250,000, we'll be able to bring on a business development team, which will allow us to scale our operations and generate more revenue. And then with full infrastructure support, by year 3, we want to generate $1.5 million in revenue. Next slide, please. My challenge to you all is don't be afraid to bet on Ironbound. One of the things I talked about before is that veterans struggle conveying our value. Well, if you look at that slide, we actually bring a lot of value already. Humbly, I was selected as a New Jersey business 40 under 40 recipient, consulted for a billion-dollar tech company, already a nationally recognized brand within the veteran community for our nonprofit arm, Ironbound Boxing, which we raised over $100,000 for during the midst of a global pandemic, and been featured in national media outlets. So again, this is not our first rodeo. Thank you, COVID.
Okay, Mike, your time is up. Thank you. We're going to move on to the audience Q&A.
Yep.
And let me pick up the questions there. So audience members, now's the time. Please put your questions in the Q&A for Mike. So first question is, can you talk a little bit more specifically about what is an example of dog whistle branding?
Yes, ma'am. So at Ironbound, we have a proprietary framework that we use to build out our podcast series that allow our audiences to engage with their perfect customer. There's a lot of vanity metrics within podcasting right now. And while a lot of people are chasing downloads, the real value of a podcast is who you're able to get on the platform and who you're able to build a relationship, who you're able to build a relationship with. So what we're able to do is we're able to walk our clients through our dog whistle branding process to put them in the best position to succeed to get that perfect customer on an interview and also build an audience with that perfect customer as well. So they're able to leverage their podcasting as a branding asset, as well as a direct to market opportunity.
Okay, great. One of the questions that I had as you were talking, you keep referring to that veterans think differently, react differently, behave differently, and it seemed that you were alluding to that those behavior patterns both as an entrepreneur in how they run their companies and as how they are a consumer. How they're purchasing services. So can you talk a little bit more about what, for those of us who are not veterans, what is it about their behavior pattern that makes them think or act differently? Can you give a little more information about that?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So many veterans spend their lifetime learning terms that don't necessarily translate to business yet, but in reality, a lot of these terms do. So for example, one concept is Jim Collins very famously fire bullets then cannonballs, which references how to validate a market first and then fire a cannonball once it works. There's a lot of opportunity to use terms that we're familiar with as veterans, such as movement to contact, commander's intent, and a lot of other messaging that does translate well to business. We just haven't educated the veteran community on it. And so part of our strategy at Ironbound is this concept of dog whistle branding, which is a language that uniquely speaks to the veteran community to educate them on marketing and branding, and then teach them how to leverage that in their go-to-market strategies. The best way I can summarize this is Salesforce introduced CRM, HubSpot introduced inbound marketing. At Ironbound, we're introducing dog whistle branding for the veteran entrepreneurial community.
Okay, great. Yeah, there's actually a lot of strategic thought that actually does originate from the military, and so I think there is a lot that we can learn in the business community from certain behaviors and terms that come from the military. So great, thank you for answering that. Can you address? I'm just checking to see. I'm not sure you addressed your current valuation or what you're asking for in your valuation with the current ask.
I'm asking for $250,000 investment at a 1.5 million evaluation.
Okay. As a convertible note?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, great. And can you let's talk a little bit about your go-to-market strategy. I think you mentioned some content outreach, some inbound marketing. How are you going to reach these? You said it's 2.5 million veteran-owned businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you reach those? How do you know where to find them, and what is holding you back from getting them right now?
Well, one of the things is we have I call it a tactical advantage. You call it unfair advantage in business. Dog whistle brand is called a tactical advantage. So as a Marine infantry officer and veteran entrepreneur, I move in a lot of these circles. But again, we're going after our initial market, which we have trust in, is really service academy graduates, which has allowed us to generate traction. One of the ways we're doing this, we built a dog whistle ourselves, the official dog whistle branding podcast, where we're able to interview service academy graduates to get them on and eventually convert them into clients, or at the very least, orchestrate a constant stream of referrals. Because at the end of the day, people do business with those they like, know, and trust. In addition, one of the reasons we want that $250,000 investment is we want to flood the veteran community and educate them on how to approach branding from a dog whistle perspective. So this includes conferences, this includes workshop series, this includes video series. And the idea is that if you're a veteran-owned business, you don't just need marketing and branding, you need dog whistle branding. And Ironbound Media is where you go to learn it.
Okay, so your long-term plan then is to grow this media company, not starting with podcasts, but really to kind of go into a multi-faceted media company.
Absolutely. So that's one of the nice things about our framework, our proprietary framework. Podcasting is our dog whistle of choice. But a dog whistle can be a video, it can be a conference, it can be a publication, right? There's a lot of options to it once you know who your perfect customer is and how to build a dog whistle around it.
Okay, great. Let me just see if I can pick up some additional questions from the chat. So audience members, if you have a question, please put it in the chat. I think we have time for one more, if you've got one. And if not, then we will jump ahead to the judges panel feedback. I'm just going to wait and see if there's another one. Okay, so I think we are going to move on to our panel feedback. And first up, we are going to hear from Sandy. Your comments for Mike.
Let's see here. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Robin. Mike, nice job. A couple of things. I'm very familiar with Bunker Labs and Julian Wood. I've done some volunteer work. That's a really good organization that can help you spread your word. You're in with the right group of people. It's a really terrific group, and Julian is a really good man. Some of your slides were too busy. Sometimes less is more. You really want to have bullet points because your slide should not take away the audience attention from what you're speaking about. So some of your slides were really busy, and as I was trying to read it, it was taking my attention away from what you were speaking about. $250,000 is not a large angel raise. You know, we like to see startups raise enough money that's going to last them a year or a year and a half, because raising money from us angels, you know, we're a pain in the ass, respectfully speaking. You know, these are risky investments. There's a gestation period. You know, if you're going to raise $500,000, I would say it's going to take you 6 months. That's going to take time away from you running your business. So you really want to raise enough money that's going to last you a year or a year and a half. So you could raise your money and then concentrate 100% on your business. That's what an angel investor would want. On your terms of your raise, if it's a convertible note or a safe, you know, a lot of angel investors don't like safe notes. There's not a lot of value for angel investors. There's usually no trigger date. There's no there's no follow-on rights. There's no information rights. It's a very simple document. And if you were going to do a traditional convertible note, you should include the terms of the interest, the discount, etc. You need to put an exit strategy in your slide deck and your presentation. I know it's hard to jam into 7 minutes, but you're going to be asked about the size of potential of your market. You're going to, you know, a focused market. And lastly, dog whistles. Only dogs can hear the whistle. Us people can't hear a dog whistle. But anyway, Mike, I wish you the best of luck and thank you for your service to our country.
Great, thank you, Sandy. Okay, Kiyana, you are up next. Your comments for Mike.
Oh, good job, Mike, on your presentation. And it's really nice that you're doing the work that you're doing for veterans. And I think the feedback that I would provide, I know you mentioned in your presentation that there are a lot of untapped resources that you're finding for these businesses. And if you have any clients in construction or construction adjacent, I would encourage you to ask them to get certified with the SDVOB. There's a lot of federal funds that aren't being used right now because they don't have the businesses certified there. And then I had one other comment, but it was already covered by Sandy.
Okay, thanks, Kiyana. That's a great point about getting certified. So thank you. That's actually a good tip for other entrepreneurs who are listening in as well. So thanks for sharing that. Next up, Seth, your comments for Mike.
Sure. Yeah, good job, Mike, on the presentation and in response to the questions. I think one of the things that was missing for me, I understand what a podcast is and some of the, you know, some of the other dog whistle type marketing deliverables and products. Yet I wasn't quite sure what your product was or what the offering was, right? Is it something where I, as a business owner, come to your studio to produce? Are you coming to our location to produce? Are you providing me with the tools for me to produce on my own? So maybe some more clarity about what is that offering? What does that kind of consumer package or journey look like would be helpful. So I think that would be something that you might want to include in the presentation. And as a follow-up, then, how do you scale, right? If it's something where I'm coming to your studio, maybe I am or not, but how do you scale that? So just thinking in terms of that.
Great, Seth. Thank you. Good points on that. Judith, your feedback.
Sure, thank you, Mike. It's always a delight to see you in action. I've seen you over the years grow and develop your business from the boxing studio to the pivot that you've made as a result of COVID. I'm a big podcast listener in the morning when I do my my morning walk around the neighborhood. So I think it would be helpful, because I know there's like so many podcasts out there, is to know a little bit about how you're going to help the companies get their targeted customer to know, so that I, as a targeted customer, am going to want to know that, yes, I want to listen to this particular podcast because it's going to be answering questions that I have. And perhaps also similar to some of the another question that had been raised earlier, if you have some examples of the type, I know you mentioned the work that you've done with yourself and Bunker Labs, bringing on some of the veteran entrepreneurs to speak about their businesses. But if you have one of your clients who's in a particular space, if you can say, we've done a series of podcasts with this particular client, and they have been able to, increase their revenue as a result of using this marketing, that would be really helpful. And again, I super appreciate all the support you have provided to the Newark entrepreneurial community, particularly the youth in Newark, and certainly, as others have said, thank you for your service to our country.
Great, thank you, Judith, and thank you, panelists, everyone, for your feedback for Ironbound Media. At this time, I'm going to ask you to fill out your quantitative scorecards, and just let me know when you have completed that. For the rest of us, stay in touch with TechLaunch. Follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn as well. We have a website where we post the new application rounds. Reach out to us, info@TechLaunch. And if you're a member of the media, please get in touch with Norma at techlaunch.com, and she will get you what you need. Okay, great. I think we are ready for Easy Health. So Easy Health is a first of its kind health tech platform, making healthcare easy and accessible for non-English speaking patients. It connects patients with doctors who speak their native language, and patients can have a video visit with a doctor within their platform. Easy Health was mentored by Perry Richmond and is presented today by Etizaz Shah, founder and CEO. Etizaz, it's all you.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. This is Etizaz, a New Yorker and immigrant from Pakistan. With prior experience in health domain, I'm going to share my venture, Easy Health, with you. It's a telemedicine platform that is designed for non-English speaking patients. Next slide, please. The biggest issue that we are facing in healthcare is communication barriers. And with COVID, as healthcare has moved majority online, most of these, the problem of language barriers has increased substantially. The biggest issue that is faced by 100 million Americans who speak a language other than English is that after spending $6.8 billion annually on communication barrier, this community is still 3 times more likely to suffer a preventable adverse event. Next slide, please. And we are addressing this challenge with a unique and culturally and linguistically sensitive telemedicine platform that is designed to connect patients with doctors who speak their native language. Our initial target are 16 million Spanish speakers, more than 300,000 Arabic speakers, and more than 100,000 Urdu speakers like myself. Next slide, please. This is how Easy Health works. It's an intuitive, easy platform where patient can select the language and choose a doctor and book an appointment in very simple way. And they can have their appointment right there in Easy Health. Along with that, patient can manage their health history, their medication, and their labs within the platform. This unique platform gives patients the freedom and control of their healthcare and gives the control entirely for all the healthcare decisions to the patients. Next slide, please. This is our business model. A patient pays $75 through their insurance or out of pocket. Out of that, $35 goes to provider, which is higher than what our competitors are paying to provider for similar services. And I'll be happy to share more in Q&A about our competitive landscape as well. And the $40 goes to Easy Health. Along with that, for the communities who cannot support healthcare, every paid visit through Easy Health supports a free consultation for underserved community member. Next slide, please. This is where we currently stand. We have completed our beta test. Now we are onboarding doctors and patients, and we are preparing for our pilot launch in December. Our robust go-to-market strategy is that we are partnering with houses of worship, community health organizations, community fairs, and through geofence social media outreach, we are reaching to specific communities to provide services. Next slide, please. And in our December launch, we are taking help from 3 ethnic medical associations, and we have formed the partnerships with National Hispanic Medical Association already, and we are working on Arab and Pakistani Doctor Association. With these collaborations, we are going for Spanish community in Washington Heights, Arabic community in Brooklyn, and Urdu speaking community in Jackson Heights. Next slide, please. And these are revenue projections. By the end of year 1, our sales revenue will be touching $500,000. And by year 3, we will be crossing 5.5 million in our sales revenue and 1.5 million in our net income. To reach to these revenue projections, we will be expanding our market size. Also, we'll be adding more languages so that by the end of year 3, we will be serving more than 160,000 patients through our platform. Next slide, please. And this is what we need at this moment. We are currently raising 500,000. So far, we have raised more than 100,000 through grants, competitions, and friends and family round. And we are doing this round for the product development, onboarding doctors, malpractice insurance, marketing, and initial medical camps in the communities to bring on initial customers on Easy Health platform. Next slide, please. This is our talented and exceptional team. We have 2 MDs and an IT professional with 19 years of experience, and myself who has experience in the domain. We all belong to immigrant backgrounds, and we can empathize with non-English speaking patients. So we are passionate to provide the best service to these communities. Next slide, please. Lastly, this is our exit strategy, where we plan on possible acquisition by a leading telemedicine player. And for your reference, I have also added recent deals that were completed in the telemedicine arena in the month of July. Next slide, please. I'll end here with a huge thanks for your time, and I welcome you to join us in this amazing journey where we are making healthcare accessible and easy for everybody. Thank you so much, and looking forward to any questions.
Great, thank you, Etizaz. We are going to turn to audience questions now. So audience members, please put your questions in the Q&A function where I can get them. And okay. I'd actually like to start with a question about that fee structure that you just had. So anytime you're talking about an innovative solution that is in the medical field, third-party payers and the fee structure, that's going to come under a lot of scrutiny for how you're actually going to be able to get this. have you tested different different fee structures, and how did you come up with that particular format?
Definitely, this is a really good question. So a lot of Medicare medical decisions are kind of driven by health insurances, that how much they will reimburse for the services. So this amount is market standard, even less than what our competitors are charging, and is covered by insurances. So we have started our credentialing process with 15 insurance companies as well for that. And also we have kept it in a range, and we plan to reduce this more for the people who do not have insurance or who cannot afford insurance, so that they can afford this price as well.
Right. So, I mean, that is one of the concerns is, you know, for those folks who are not covered or who are on family care or other plans or charity care. Okay. We have a question. Why would it be hard for Teladoc and others to add language-based physician choice? So it's a question about your competition. There are lots of telehealth providers and platforms that are out there already. What is preventing them from launching a language-based arm to their service?
Definitely, really good question, and I get this question a lot. It's all one thing that I would say that Teladoc has been there since 2002 and actively since 2008. But this thing was never added in their system, and new platforms that are being added as well, telemedicine platform. The angle to serving these communities in their preferred language has been left behind traditionally. One thing that is considered difficult is that providing services in healthcare in other than English language is the issue that comes is that when you collect information from patient in their language, how you translate that to the doctor or to PAs or other members who are working on it. So we have made our platform where we collect all the information from the patient in the patient preferred language and convert that into English. So we have very set values that are translated by expert translators. So the patient, on the patient side, everything is in their language, and on the doctor side, it is in English. I think this is one of the biggest barriers. Second barrier is uniquely collecting the doctors from the language backgrounds. For example, Teladocs will ask me what language I speak, but I never get the doctor that I requested for. They will bring me an interpreter. What we are trying to do is that we are removing the interpreters between doctor and patient and directly connecting doctor to the patient, so that there's no language barrier or there's no third party between doctor and patient.
Okay. And can you just clarify, is this for solely to match telehealth visits, so it's completely remote, or is your platform also to be able to match with in-person providers as well?
We are starting with phone and video visit, but there's a lot of demand also for in-person visit after this. So we are considering that where patient is booking an appointment for in-person, for video and phone, we give them option for in-office visit as well.
Okay, great. We have a question about clarification of the fees that you are charging. Who is paying those fees?
If patient has insurance, then insurance company is paying the fee. If patient do not have insurance and they are paying out of pocket, then the patient will pay through their credit card or PayPal.
Okay, and have you done an analysis? So are these fees additional? Are they more than what a traditional doctor's visit would be? Is there an upcharge for this service?
So from traditional doctor visit, it is lesser. Also, it is lesser than what other telemedicine platforms are charging. Some are charging like 85, like there's a range from like 79 above for these services. So we are charging 75. It's an average amount of 75. And for phone visit is $10 lesser.
Okay. And you didn't mention any particular specialty or area of specialty. Is this general medicine, internal medicine? Is it a specialty visit?
Yes, we are working in 4 domains. We are starting with everyday care, general medicine, and specialist. And then we plan to add mental health and wellness into it as well.
Okay. Okay, great. We have a question about the malpractice fees. Whenever you get involved in healthcare, the malpractice fees can be astronomical. So have you looked into that already, and how has that affected your projections?
I did, and we have already got one to cover all the providers that will be providing services to our platform. So every provider who gives service through Easy Health, his or her malpractice will be covered through us.
So you will be providing malpractice insurance to cover those physicians?
Yes, for the services they provide on our platform.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Okay, and I think that we have time for one more question. Do you already integrate with existing EMRs that physicians are likely using? And think carefully before you answer that question, with the understanding that there is no one standard yet for different specialties.
Yes, that's the biggest issue that we faced when we were making patient portal, that how we can connect it to the EMRs. There was only one EMR that said that we are open to collaborate and open our APIs, but they were very expensive, $450 per provider. So we ended up making our own basic EMR with the integration of medicine and lab system. We have made our own limited EMR, which also helps us in the long run to reduce the $75 price, because we will not be being charged for the huge cost of EMR.
Okay. Okay, great. Our time is up for the audience Q&A, so we are going to turn to judges' feedback. So at this point, we are going to start with Kiyana. Can you lead us off with some questions or no questions. Lead us off with feedback for Etizaz.
You read my mind, because I do have lots of questions, right? So very good presentation. I thought it was very clear, and the business model was quite clear. But my feedback actually was that it left me with a lot of questions. And maybe you could address some of these in your presentation about how you acquire the doctors in the hospitals. I can almost imagine that patients would come because they need, doctors in a certain language. And healthcare is like a very connected industry. And I'm just trying to wrap my mind around where the translation happens if you're like sending, prescriptions or somebody to a specialist or something like that. So maybe some more information around that would help. And then how you're getting to your revenue projections. It felt like there was a gap. It just was like, okay, this is how we're gonna make the money, but I'm not sure. I think there needs to be a little bit more information about how you plan to get there.
Definitely.
Okay, great. Good points, Kiyana. Thank you. Seth, your comments for Etizaz.
Sure, Etizaz, yeah, I agree. Excellent presentation, very clear, concise. Just following up in Kiyana's question about, or what, there was some previous conversation around that you may also be providing insurance. And I think then you may be underestimating the expenses or the funds necessary to carry out some of these things, of attracting doctors to the network, of providing the insurance, of being a HIPAA compliant EHR. I think this is a really interesting space, and something, telehealth is something I've looked into for the last probably 4 or 5 months. And also, when Robin mentioned earlier about your barriers to entry, or what seems to be low barriers to entry, your reference to Teladoc was valid in that, of course, they started out early and they haven't done that yet. However, COVID completely turned the landscape upside down, right? And telehealth exploded since, and companies are, new companies have emerged, and those existing companies are looking at how they could then differentiate, serve the public in a whole new way. So I mention that only because I do think it's the barriers aren't that significant. I think speed to market is critical. I think you could be really successful with a the ability to get to market quickly and have some level of scale. And then, some of those comps and acquisitions that have occurred recently could certainly make it your way as well. But really good job, good start, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seth. Good points. Judith, your comments.
Great, thank you. I really want to commend you. I think this was a super set of graphics that you presented in your slide deck. They were clear. It wasn't cluttered. So I really want to commend you on having put your slide deck together. A couple of the other pieces of information that I would have liked to have seen a little bit more information on in the presentation is, one, what are the partnerships that you've got in place or are planning to put in place? Clearly, things like chambers of commerce. I know you mentioned some of that in your description, but if you have some of those relationships already put in place when you're going to have your launch, later this year, that would have been great information to have seen. And additionally, a slide on how your features relate to competitive offerings. And when companies or when patients are able to select a physician who matches their language capability, are they also able to do a screen with respect to ratings of the physician? Because I'm sure there may be multiple physicians who speak Spanish, and so I'm coming in looking for a Spanish speaking physician. Will I also be able to screen against ratings? And is there also an opportunity to screen against physicians that will accept the particular kind of insurance that I have? I've known when I've gone to some in-person doctor's visits, when you used to go to in-person doctor's visits, one of them had a whole list of insurance companies posted on their back wall indicating, we only accept insurance from these places. So then you'd like to be able to hopefully have the patients be able to not only select a physician that speaks their language to remove the miscommunications barriers, but also have someone who accepts their insurance and has the rating that they're interested in. Thanks very much. Again, a super presentation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith. And finally, Sandy, your comments.
Hey, Etizaz, long time no speak. I think we spoke about 30 days ago. You're certainly on a noble mission to solve a problem. One of the things you may want to consider is creating a short, concise video to show how your platform actually works. Videos are really good for angel investors. We don't have to think, we just have to watch. Again, virtual matchmaking is often a challenging angel investment, and I agree that it is a race to the market. You totally left out the terms of your raise. I think you were raising 500,000, and we had discussed this before. You have to put the terms down for a simple-minded angel investors to understand what you're asking for, convertible note, and if it's what those terms are, or if it's an equity position. I also agree the go-to-market strategy could be a little better. The one thing that really scared me in the presentation was the fact that you were going to insure the insurance aspect. That's a separate business. You may be biting off a little more than you can chew as a pre-revenue company. But the other thing is, I'd like to know more about your background. I'd feel a lot better if you spoke like 12 languages fluently, because that's the business you're going to be in. But again, you're on a noble mission, and angel investors will always give noble missions an extra look at these eyes. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And good to see you.
Sandy, that was great. Good comments about that. So at this point, I would like to ask the panelists to fill out the scorecard for Easy Health. While you are doing that and working on that, I'm going to just review a few pieces of information to share with our audience. Some of our TechLaunch stats to date were synonymous with New Jersey entrepreneurship. TechLaunch was established in 2012 in collaboration with the New Jersey EDA and regional angel investors, and to date has served over 150 tech-focused companies and mentored over 250 aspiring entrepreneurs. And since 2017, we've held 22 bullpen events presenting over 80 seed stage companies. So a lot of alumni out there. Next slide, please. Okay. This just some highlights and takeaways. Very often we get some aspiring entrepreneurs who are in our audience. You know, we know you're there, we know you're lurking, and this actually is a great way to hear the panel feedback, to learn from them, to see what they're focusing on, what they're commenting about. So just a few things that I noticed in hearing from our 4 panelists today. They talked about the secret sauce. Any pitch really needs to hit home on the main points of differentiation. What is going to make your company different than its competitors? And what's your reason for being? What is unique about it? And what do you bring to the market? That's got to come out pretty strong. So that's something to think about as you're building your company or as you're preparing for your own pitch someday. The panelists also gave some really good points and tips about presentation. Again, clarity, really having an easy to read slide. You know, one of the things I always tell companies that I'm advising is white space is your friend. It's okay to have some white space. It's okay to not fill the slide, you know, edge to edge with everything. People need to really be able to understand it, to process it, and to digest it. So it's good to sometimes chunk that and make it easy to understand. Another point, another theme that I noticed from the panelists' comments today, we heard a lot about concerns about scale. This is something, this is one of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs face is you may have a great idea, you might start to have some initial product market fit, and really being able to navigate how to scale that up and being able to kind of stretch yourself until you get to that next level and very clearly communicating to an investor X amount of dollars will result in this Y amount of scale and traction and what those metrics are that you will achieve as a result of the investment. So those are some things to think about, both for today's pitch presenters and for those who are in the audience and in the future. Just to remind everyone, the winner of today's pitch event receives an invitation to pitch in front of the Jumpstart New Jersey Angel Network and Tech Council Ventures, and also is eligible to receive $15,000 of in-kind services from our event partners, which include Witham, Gearhart Law, Casabona Ventures, and Gibbons Law. And today's winner is Easy Health. Congratulations. And congratulations to everyone for making it through the selection process. They do have to go through some rounds of screening and select mentoring just in order to present. So everyone who presented today really deserves a round of applause. Great job, everyone. I'm going to turn that back over to Mario now. Are you there?
Great presentations, all 3 of them. You know, you heard the judges' feedback, the audience's Q&A. I hope you guys and ladies, take advantage of what you heard and what you saw. So thank you very much, and congratulations to Easy Health. Next time we'll do a louder drum roll but congratulations. So now it's really my turn to thank a lot of people, especially Robin and Eric. You see Robin there in the front, and Eric is doing a lot of stuff in the background. So thank you very much, both for their volunteering, for their mentoring, and advising me as well. Thank you to our panelists, Judith, Sandy, Kiyana, and Seth, for your constructive feedback as well as participating. I know how valuable your time is. And thank you to our event partners, Witham, Gibbons Law, Casabona Ventures, Gerhardt Law, Jumpstart New Jersey Angel Network, and Tech Council Ventures. And thank you. The last thank you is to our senior mentors, especially Peter Kastenbaum, Ratan Agrawal, and Perry Richmond for their mentoring of the 3 presenting companies, and to the advisors. Without them, this bullpen event and mentoring program would not be successful. They're listed on our TechLaunch website. So if you would like to know more about TechLaunch, go to techlaunch.com. And thank you very much. And I got my cue from Eric.